Okay, greetings and welcome to the Executive Strategies podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Christi from United States, Miami, Florida, with us. She's a social media marketing expert with years of experience, and she's a candidate as a commissioner in the Miami, Florida as well. So let's explore what's her secrets, how she's leading multiple brands, and how is helping businesses get more clients and leads. Thank you so much for appearing on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope that your audience can learn something from me because it's my favorite thing was when people come back and tell me that they learned something from me that I never realized that I educated them on.
Thank you so much for. I'm grateful for you to you for that. Okay, Christy, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Well, first of all, I was like probably many of your guests, and I was just a business owner. And as a business owner, I tried to hire multiple marketing people, IT people, and they would always fail me in some way. So, what I did is I had to dive in and do some of the things myself. So, I had to learn and educate myself on how to do these things because I have no marketing degree despite me actually, being a marketing educator now and a speaker now. I had no marketing degree prior. So I want to give all of your audience, you don't need to go to school. You do not need to necessarily even get an education. You do not need to get an indoctrination degree. I want to encourage you all to please go and find the best person in your neighborhood that can teach you what you want to know and learn from that person because that's going to be your best education ever. It's much better to go and work for a local business owner for free to see what you can do, to see if you're able to make a difference in their business because it's not going to hurt them if you're doing it for free. And it could end up helping them. And in the long run, it could also save you a lot of money on a very expensive education, at least if your education system is similar to the way that it is here in the United States.
Right, wonderful. So are you saying like United States education system is also not that well in the marketing, right?
Right. Well, you can go to you. It doesn't matter how much school you have here. We actually call some of the education um, facilities, the universities, are more like indoctrination camps. Now they're not even focused necessarily on education and what you really need to be learning, especially in the world of marketing. But what you really need to do is actually do the work and have somebody teach you. Use online courses, use online videos like this and just go for it.
Just go
Don't
for
wait
it.
on somebody else to do it for you. And if there's an agency out there, offer to work for the agency for free. Don't ask for a job. Ask, hey, can I volunteer? Can I please just shadow you? Here in the United States, a lot of the most successful people that run businesses ask to shadow a very successful business owner. And when you shadow, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to take notes. You have to be prepared to not try to change that person's mind, but try to learn from them.
That's a very good point that and you showed up. Wonderful. So, what are the three actionable steps that others businesses can get in the social media industry uh, as an actionable step to grow their business gradually?
So, when you're trying to grow your business gradually on utilizing social media, you want to first make sure that your accounts are set up properly because improper setup of accounts can actually harm your business. You want to make sure that all of your location based sites are set up. You want to make sure that you have all of the details, all your descriptions plugged in, and you're utilizing keywords. Then you want to make sure that your content is all set up correctly. I mean, you're not your content set up correctly, but you want to make sure you have daily content going out. So when I say daily content, we do set up content on the back end for our clients. So it is a strategy. We know what's going to come out tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. However, there are times, depending on news cycles, depending on the account, that we may have to be prepared to go in immediately with new strategies or new information. It really just depends on what the account is, but if it's a basic business, you should be able to preset up all of your social media utilizing planning services or planning publishing softwares. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you engage. You want to make sure that you have all of your engagement set up so that people get immediate responses. So, with like my e commerce business, one of the biggest things that we get asked is, hey, I only see that there's one of these available or there's two available. I need three or four for a wedding. Well, the biggest thing we can do is respond immediately and let people know, yes, we either have them, we don't, or direct them to maybe something else that we have, or even help them find it at another shop online, because then they're going to remember us. That's very few businesses do that, especially e-commerce businesses offer to even help people find things that they're looking for online. Or if there isn't anything and they have time, like in a case of a wedding, sometimes they actually have 6 months. So we can actually make those products for them and send them on time. But we want to make sure that we do communicate. We have, all of our email service flows, all of our messaging flows, and that they're real. The other thing that people often don't do, brands try to create these, long streams of marketing drives in the very beginning. The marketing flows like via text message, but they forget to answer the person's actual questions. So to me, I find that very annoying as a consumer. So I try not to do that to a client, when we're first getting them.
Amazing. That's that last point is loving one. I just love that. So we talked about the solutions. So what are the top three mistakes that people usually do in the social media marketing?
Okay, so top three mistakes in social media marketing include everything from not being yourself, not being your brand, not being on point with your brand. So, in other words, if you are trying to sell exhaust pipes, don't try to sell beautiful earrings at the same time. Don't even talk about them. Then not being authoritative enough. So what does that mean? Having the authority over the brand, making sure that people know that you are the best at what you do. And then number three, making sure that you are the same online as you are offline. So you want to make sure that your brand's personality doesn't change, whether it's your own personal personality or it's the brand mission itself.
Right, perfect. So if we talk about the social media, do you think the next world is going to be all about the video content, all about the social media things? Because as per the Google Bard and the ChatGPT things are rolling out, people are just leaving the reading content and they're moving more on the video content. So what's your take on that?
I think that there's a balance between both. I think it really depends on what the person is about. I do think that we need subtitles on videos because most of the time people cannot watch a video because maybe they're at work and they're not really supposed to be watching videos. So you definitely have to make sure that you have subtitles on your videos. But I
True.
think it's a happy balance. However, one of the main tactics that we use in strategy is making sure that we're using the latest of anything, whether it's Instagram Reels or the most trending song in a video, and trying, when it comes to Instagram and the reels and things, and TikTok, you really can't plan too far ahead because you don't know what those reels are going to be. So that has to be really more real time in the daily life of either the brand or the personality behind the brand.
Perfect. So who is your ideal target market?
My idea target market is quite different on each brand. So there's not with my e-commerce brand, I target market to brands that are similar. So a lot of my novelty items are very driven towards a Betsy Johnson or a Kate Spade lover, whereas my venue is driven towards anybody who may want a venue to host a wedding, or my blog, maybe it's my personal blog, psthisrocks.com, is driven towards anybody who really just wants to know my travel itinerary, or places that I've gone, like my favorite places in London or my favorite places in Paris. We're actually making that right now where you can actually click on the map and actually go directly to all of the feed of the entire post. So that way you can have my complete list. And that's because part of the reason is because much of my audience wants to know while they're there. While I'm asleep, they want to know what my favorite places and my favorite restaurants were in Paris. So I'm trying to make that so that they can easily click on them and find them so that they can also enjoy those same experiences. So it really just depends on the brand. When it comes to, I have a branding and marketing agency. So the target there is anyone who wants to improve the looks of their brand, who wants, their printing, beautiful printing, beautiful business cards. So pretty much that one's on keyword because we don't want to work for people who don't want those specific items. We don't want just anybody online. We're not out advertising to just everyone because people will find us based on our work for that particular brand. And then when it comes to my social media brand, puttingout.com, that is obviously related to people who want information and who want to know specific things regarding social media. Sometimes it's how to's or maybe hacks that we found, or in the case, I have another brand that I have just launched called Design Rock Stars, and that's designrockstars.com.
Right.
So that brand is dedicated towards anybody who is in the creative world who really wants to know how to profit utilizing your creative juices. How do you actually profit from it? Because it's not an easy thing to profit when you're creative. So many times people want to use your creativity and they don't want to pay you for it. So I'm going to be teaching people there how to actually profit from their creativity.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. I will check into all the websites. Amazing. So I will come into put out your agency. I have a question in mind for that. But first of all, this is gonna be the like toughest question of this podcast that guess you really can't face that. They have to think about
Okay.
this. What is the single most failure you call from your professional life? What was lesson learned, and how did you recover from it?
Oh, that's a great question. So, the single greatest failure. Let's see. I've got a lot of failures. So,
Yeah,
this is the thing. Well, I mean, a lot of people would say in my professional or personal, because sometimes it kind of goes hand in hand.
professional.
So, okay, professional. So I owned an interior design store in Swanee, Georgia. That was my first business. And I don't consider it a success, even though it was an absolute success. It catapulted me to what I am today. But the reality is that business, I could not get a loan for it was just a time period very much like we're in right now. So I hope that this encourages a lot of people. Whenever you do have loans, like in America, we had a thing called a balloon note. So when the balloon note is due, your bank decides whether or not they are going to lend you more money or continue that loan for you. It doesn't matter if you've paid it on time or not, which I did, but the bank decided they were not going to renew my balloon note. They preferred to take the property. So, one of the things that I've learned from that is number one, you don't ever assume that a bank is going to back you because they have all the authority, and keep things whatever you can afford out of your own bank account. That's what you do. You don't go for anything else, because I lost a lot of money by continuing to pay on a bank note for a property that I ended up losing because they did not want to renew the bank note. And that was in 2009, 2010. So right after the market collapse here in America. So as we're going through, rocky times in the world, make sure that you're not overspending. You don't need if you can office out of your home, office out of your home. Don't think that you need a big posh office to impress anyone, because that is something that you want to make sure that you keep things affordable as you can afford, and you're never going to be in a situation like I was in where you do have this, big property or this big office. And not only do you have to fill that with people, but you also have to make sure that your bills are paid for it. And if you can't pay them on your own, you don't want to have to rely on anyone else to be able to do that for you. The other thing, make sure that you are, keeping your equipment, up to date as possible. Make sure right now with hard times in the economy and with not knowing if, like, for instance, your microphone, make sure you have an extra microphone. Okay. So invest in things like that because we are going through some situations here in America where it's harder to get things, and it may be that your items that you have are more valuable than the money in your bank account. So, do
Absolutely.
think about that. So, I want to encourage all of you to make sure that you do think about your backup equipment, your keyboards, your mice, your, basic things that you're going to need. Because, if you don't need them, your neighbor might. So make sure that you do have an extra one or two even on hand so that you're not putting yourself out of work because that could easily happen.
Right. So, what is the size of your company right now?
It depends on which company. I have about 7 companies that
Right.
I'm running right now. So they
So, you're
each vary, mostly with yeah, mostly I have contractors in my companies. I have contractors because I don't want to have to deal with the payroll taxes and things that I've had to deal with in the past. And that way, people are more adamant to be working for themselves and want to do a good job.
perfect. So, just a quick question on this. Is the employer ever unhappy to invest in his employees there in United States?
Is the employer ever happy to invest?
Unhappy to invest. That's the
Oh yeah, yeah,
question.
absolutely. Yes, of course. I think across the world that's probably one of the things. Not everybody's always happy, with their employees in the United States or anywhere.
Are
And
you?
I am. I'm always happy, typically happy with because my most of my employees or contractors
Mhm.
are, I tend oh, there's one other really important thing regarding
Mhm.
mistakes is not cutting ties quick enough. If you realize, somebody is not, if you're having to spend a lot of time training them and they're just not getting it, you know what? Cut ties with them right away because otherwise it will cause you a lot of frustration. It will cause you a lot of angst. And
Mhm.
you want people around you that can do the job that you want them to do. Otherwise, if they're taking up more of your time then you could probably do the job yourself, then go ahead and cut ties with them because it's not worth it. It took me a long time to realize that, you can do that, because especially as a female, sometimes we're afraid we're gonna hurt somebody's feelings or something. I'm no longer afraid of
Mhm.
that. I'm
Understood.
very direct and forward.
Right. Perfect. So, what are your ideal plans to grow your business?
Well, there's a couple things. So, first of all, I have to actually get a little bit better at my own social media with my ChristiTasker.com brand. That's my fashion brand that I released early this year. So that is an actual, on a day to day, it's something that I tend to shove to the side are my own personal brands as we're working on clients. Because obviously, if a client needs something, we tend to, push the client forward, which, we always should and we always will. It's just my nature. But I definitely have to work on my own social media and my own websites and things a little bit more. We do have that in the works right now because it is important to make sure that if you're, no matter what services you're selling, to make sure that your own brand presence looks good. It will help you sell, you know, further services. I'm a little bit further along in my career where people, know my good work. So sometimes I, had gone 10 years without rebuilding, some of my main websites. But it's time and they needed to be rebuilt. And, they were not even a representation of what we're doing today because what we're doing is like so cool and innovative and with video and gifts and, and so eye catching that, we weren't taking time to do that.
Perfect. So, do you think TikTok ads gonna rule the world?
That's a great question. I certainly hope not. I was an advocate to get TikTok banned in the United States because it is a communist owned site. So communists are listening to us right now. They can hear every single thing we say and do. So I do have TikTok on my phone. Okay. So I want to make that very clear. I do wish that we could have a worldwide shutdown of TikTok. That would be my
Right.
because I think it's such a time waster too. I think what I'm seeing, I see things in two folds, right? I see things as a mom, I see
Mhm.
things as a mentor,
Yep.
and I see things as an educator. Okay.
Right.
So there's very few things you're probably really learning on TikTok, to be honest. Even though we all think that, oh, this hack and that hack, you're learning it really quickly. Not really. You're learning it, but it's useless information and
Mhm.
it's a lot of useless time. But
Right.
yet, if as long as the audience is there, which they are there, we
Mhm.
do as marketers have to utilize it. We cannot ignore it. But I do hope that on our next election term here in the United States that TikTok will be shut down completely because they do store all of our data, all of our voice data, even though we ask them not to track and follow. We know
Mhm.
for a fact they are. It is a listening device and a listening tool in each of our homes, in each of our palms. So,
Exactly.
if you guys want to start a worldwide shutdown of TikTok, I'll join you.
I hope so as well. Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing on that. Okay, so you're a serial entrepreneur as well. So you started out a company, you take it at a very good level. How do you plan to shut down your company, close your
That's a
company?
that's a great question. So, first of all, I tried to get my daughters to take over my company.
Right.
And they seem to have no interest whatsoever. So it really depends on which company because some of them there is a closure plan in place already.
What's
But when
that?
it comes, well, it really just depends on. I can't say because then people will assume that it's not going to be there. But it's really the physical location pieces because we don't want to be there. We don't want to have to be there. Um, when it comes to e-commerce, so there's a better plan there in terms of I will be hiring more designers,
Mhm.
and the designers themselves will actually own a portion of the company because otherwise, it just if something happens to me, if I get hit by a bus, then the whole company goes down.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and I don't want that to happen.
Mhm.
When it comes to my digital media agency, there's a plan for one of the designers who works with me. They would pick up the pieces and move on with it.
Mhm.
But there's no huge master plan in any of them. And it's
Right.
actually not a good idea. I'm saying this is actually one of my weaknesses. But fortunately, here's also the thing that many of my contractors know exactly who our clients are, and there is a if I get hit by a bus, they know they have then the permission to reach out to them to say what they've been doing. Yeah,
Perfect. And so, yeah, and this is the, a very good thing. Should have a plan to close your company
yeah.
because so many businesses don't do that. Perfect. Thank you so much, Christy, for sharing that with me and the audience. So, the people who are watching this right now, how can they support you?
Well, the first thing you could do is just go and subscribe to all of the sites that I mentioned. psthisrocks.com is my blog, which I think you would like very much. I think everybody would like it and be inspired by it, maybe find some new and interesting things. And then you can also go to Putting Out, and that's PUTTINOUT.com and subscribe there as well. You can shop on ChristyTasker.com If you would like to see my new political career, which I never thought I would
Yes.
have in my entire life, you can go to ChristiTaskerForMiami.com. If you want to be inspired by the brands that we create, go to TaskerAgency.com.
Mhm.
And you can all designedrockstars.com is my new mentorship brand. So I highly recommend. That's going to be the big one, probably, that your audience is really, really going to want to follow, because there's going to be a lot of free
Mhm.
information there, as well as one-on-ones I'm going to be offering, so that if you are having trouble and you really want my one-on-one advice, I'm happy to give it to you, because I do help a lot of companies and a lot of people really succeed. And as you know from the beginning of this interview, it's not always, with school. And I'm not anti school. I just don't have any school degrees. And I've been very successful without them. So I definitely encourage, other people to do the same.
So you encourage the skills, not the degree. That's the thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let me just share it with you. There is a very huge controversy within Pakistan about this degree or skill. So
Repeat that again.
degree versus skill. What to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of younger people are figuring out that, you know, when they've gone to school, they've paid a lot of money, they've spent a lot of time, and when you really get out, there's not a lot that you
Hmm.
couldn't have learned
True, true,
outside,
true.
you know? So you can self-educate yourself. I mean, I will say that. So, I definitely encourage people to self-educate and learn from people who have been to school. I mean, I do hire people who have gone to school. Um,
Hmm.
the majority of even what they say that they've learned is actually more on the job. And trial and error, because you do have to try things, you have to communicate with each other, you have to find out if there's, there has to be somebody that you can call to say, hey, I'm not really sure how to do this,
Hmm.
or is it valuable, and have communication, because that's the biggest thing. So, join some Facebook groups, find people that you can ask questions to, and ask Google.
Ask Google. That's what I
Yeah.
was coming from. Like when I want to say that, but you said it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Christy, on that. And yes, asking is a very big skill. That is the most important one. Even if
Yes, it
you
is.
ask ChatGPT the right prompt, then you will get the right answer, right?
That's right. That's right.
So we are just setting up. There's a lot to talk about, but we are out of time. You have to go. So what will you say about the Executive Strategist podcast when I'm not there?
I haven't watched any of the rest of your podcast, but I love your questions. I think the questions are all really great, and I will be sure to share this with my audience. So I think that
Sure.
that's enough said, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really enjoyed the convo. It was amazing talking to you today, and it was a like Pakistani United States
Yeah,
podcast.
absolutely. And
So,
I'm going to say this, if any of your audience has questions, make sure that they send them to you, and you can
mhm.
have me back on and I'll answer their questions. How easy is that?
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Gracie. Bye bye.
Bye bye.